Hello.
Of Amazon FireSide. Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Amazon's FireSide Chat. As usual, it's me, Anisha, and I'm joined today by Mario and Giovanni. Hey, guys.
Hello,
Hello,
hello.
how are you?
How are you guys?
Great,
Great.
great.
So we have the whole team here today to talk to you about a really cool topic. And I am going to put that on screen now. So today we're going to be talking about submitting your apps to the Amazon App Store. And this is part two of a series that we've been doing. So you may remember, or if you don't, then I definitely recommend going back and watching the stream from 2 weeks ago, where we talked about the pre-submission app checklist and steps you can do to get ready to submit your app. Today, we're going to be focusing on the actual process of submitting your app. So, when you go into the developer portal, you upload your APK and all the information that you need to make sure that your app gets submitted, reviewed, and accepted by the Amazon App Store. So, we're going to talk about the process. We're going to talk about testing criteria that we check for here at Amazon, and we're going to talk about the app submission API. So, loads to cover. Before we jump in, however, I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping. Make sure you use the chat to engage. We will obviously do our best to answer all your questions. We are live here every Tuesday at 6 o'clock GMT, 10 a.m. PST. When you use the chat, just make sure you're respectful and use respectful language. We want to make sure that we create a great environment for everyone to feel comfortable. And don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, share all the shebang. We are here every week for you guys. So if you know any developers who have any questions, or just somebody generally interested in what we do here at Amazon App Store and devices, please send them our way. We're always looking to share more information with you guys. So, without further ado, I will hand over to Triani to just tell you briefly what he's sharing.
Great. Thank you, Anisha, and thank you everybody for listening this. So I will actually, like Anisha said, today we will see how to actually deploy an app into the Amazon App Store. And I will share with you, I'm sharing with you my screen. Yes, you can see it here. And with an actual app that I developed, so a demo app, and I will try to deploy this into the Amazon App Store. So I will show you all the steps that actually are 9 simple steps to deploy this app and to pass throughout the review process of the Amazon App Store. So I think we can start actually. So with the first step, that is just log in and add an app. No?
Okay. Yeah. So I think what I'll do before we jump in, so I'm just going to put on screen the 8 steps we're going to cover today. So as Gio said, the first step is obviously logging in and adding your app. Then we'll have to add like general information about your app. Then we've got availability, pricing, the descriptions, the media, content rating, and finally the section where we actually upload our files. And once you do all this, you submit your app. You can then go in and check the status of your app, make sure that everything is running smoothly, and if there's any errors, go back and fix them. So I will put back to the screen that Gio was sharing now, which was the portal.
Sorry, Anisha, I said 9 steps before. Actually, the steps to do are actually 8, but the next step is actually waiting for the review process. So that's the last one.
Definitely. We could count 9 as testing. There's loads of step 9s. It doesn't finish after just submitting, as we all know. So yes, as we mentioned, the first step is to obviously head over to the developer portal and sign in. If you don't have an Amazon account, you will need one. So not just a normal developer account. To get a developer account, you will need a normal Amazon account, and then these two will be linked together. Once you've signed in, you'll be prompted, to either create your account or sign in, and then you can click on the button shown on screen, which is Add an App, and this will bring up that drop-down menu that Gio is showing, which you can either select an Android app or a mobile web app. So the Android app is the Java-based Android app, which is usually created with Android Studios. And the mobile app is the HTML5 web apps that we actually spoke about a couple of sessions ago, which are the ones that are created with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Once you've done this, and you click add an app, you'll be taken to this page where you can then add all of that information about your app. So the first thing is to add general information. So this is these fields that you see here. So you've got things like your app title, which is the title for your app, the app SKU, which is also what we call the long form is app stock keeping unit. And this is unique, so it's defined for every app, and it becomes the ID for your app, and it's for your own tracking purposes. So you need to make sure that this is obviously unique for every app that you have. There's a couple more fields in here. I won't go through all of them, but as you can see, like these are all the important fields that you will need to add those general information about your app. I will pass over now to Mario to talk about the second tab, which is availability and pricing.
Thank you, Anisha. So I think this is one actually of the most important parts of the app setup for the submission, ahead of the submission, because this is where you decide how you make money, right? And there are mainly two approaches that you can have here. You can decide if you want to have a free application or a paid application. So the other thing that is also important to decide is where do you want to distribute your application. This is actually the first information that is requested. Where would you like this application to be available? And by default, it is set to in all countries and regions where Amazon sell applications. So if you select this setting, automatically every time Amazon, for example, gets into a new country and makes the app available, make apps in the App Store available in those countries, your apps will also be automatically distributed in those countries. So there is a huge advantage in selecting this field. Otherwise, you might have a specific reason to do this. For example, you want to distribute your content only in a certain country because you only have rights to distributing the content in that specific country. You can do that using this additional field, which is only selected countries and region, and then you can go into more granularity and decide where you want to distribute your application. Then you can decide if you want to select what is the monetization model. Is it a free application or it's a paid application? If it's free, keep in mind that the app will always need to be free. And this is like your single time decision. If you make it free, you cannot then turn it to paid. You can do vice versa. You can revert a paid application to become a free application, but you cannot do the reverse. So you can then, let's say that if you select paid because you want to sell your application for a price, you then enter a base list price and currency from the drop-down menu. And then you can have the system automatically calculate the price for you based on your input base list price. And as you can see here, selling an app for the very high price of 23 pounds. Yeah, it must be a very good app, Gio. I'm actually very, very interested in seeing this app. But then, as you can see, this price gets automatically converted. Or you can just go and select, I will set my own prices, and then you will be able to manually set prices. One thing that you have to keep in mind is that Amazon has a specific model of distributing paid applications, which is based on the marketplace where your application is available. So in this case, as you can see, it sets different prices. Gio, if you can scroll down, you can see it can set different. Here, this one is great. You can see that there is like different price for Amazon.co.jp, which is the Japanese store, one for Amazon.ca, which is Canada, and so on. So it is based on the Amazon reference marketplace for that specific country. And then the last thing is to select when would you like publishing to start. And this is so-called the postpone release as well, because you can select a specific time when your application goes live and is made available to customer, and that can be set to sometime in the future. You can also set the time zone as well. So again, quite a few steps. There are a few things to be said. Again, keep in mind that if you're distributing internationally, I want to specify this very, very clearly. By default, it is set to selling everywhere. So keep that in mind when you're setting up your app for the first time. You can always go back to this step and review it after you've done all the other and completed all the other steps, and change it. But keep in mind that once you submit your application, then if you have selected free, it will be free forever. Otherwise, you will need to remove your application and resubmit, which is an entire separate process and can bring to a few headaches. So keep in mind that that's the best thing to do. So I would say that, I don't know if you guys have anything else about paid applications. I don't know if we have questions from the audience.
We do, yeah. Well. We have quite a few actually. So I'll put the first one up. So, hey, I want to promote my games, but I live in Italy. When's the possibility to do that? When will it be available? Even just promote it in the US, because I can't do that from Italy. Mario, did you want to take this one?
Sure, of course. So great question. Right now, there are some functionalities for self-promotion of applications, which are available, unfortunately, only in the US and only to US developers. And those are right now limited to Fire TV, for example, where you can advertise your display. You can do display advertisement on Fire TV. Again, we're aware of this requirement from a lot of developers, and I would say watch this space, because that's something that we're hearing a lot, and we would like to work on. So keep an eye on this, and we'll bring this feedback back to the team for sure as well, and to the advertisement team as well.
Yeah. I think, and that kind of answers your second part of the question, which is there a plugin for Unity to integrate with Amazon ads, because you want to release more games and monetize with ads? And I guess this is a very similar answer, isn't it, Mario? Like we are aware.
So. Yeah, I think that's a great question for the Amazon ads team. We can actually go back and see if they are working with Unity and the Unity SDK. I know it's very popular. So
yeah,
100%. I don't know if there is a way to specifically integrate directly with Amazon ads, but it's for sure great feedback to bring back to the ads team. So thank you, Stanislav, for the feedback.
Yeah, thank you. And then we have another question from Genius Developer. I submitted my app to the App Store and I received a mail saying it's not been published because of an issue. Maybe if you share the issue, we can definitely try and help you out. We will be covering common issues very shortly, and stay tuned. Always drop us your question and we'll do our best to answer that too. Thank you guys for the questions. Please keep them coming. That's what we're here for. We don't want to just give you information that you already know, but great questions. Let's try and keep them coming. Awesome. So I will hand over to Giovanni to talk about the description section.
Awesome. So we are at step number 4, I think, right? So we already are going fast with the steps. So this is the step number 4. It is about setting the description, the title of your application. So the first thing is that you have to click on the description tab, and then you will see this screen, this UI, in which you can set the title. This will be like the title of your application as it's displayed on the store, on the App Store, or in the App Store website. And yeah, remember to put something different from the title that you put in the name of the application of the App Store from the developer point of view. This is the title that actually your user will see in the store. Then you can set up the description. The short description, we have 2 descriptions, the short one and the long one. In the short description, you will have a maximum, let me see, I always forget about this number. So 1,200 English characters for the short description. Remember that this will be shown in the App Store as well, but if you are developing something for the Fire TV UI will only display 200 characters. So be conscious about the number of words and characters you put in the short description. And otherwise, the user will see like 200 characters on the Fire TV and the ellipses. include the most important. My suggestion is include only the most important information about your app in these fields. And if you have more, if you want to put more description about your app, there is a long description field that you can use. This is like allowing for you a maximum of 4,000 characters. So you have a lot of space to write it down, whatever your application is doing. And remember that this long description will appear in the Appstore website, but not on tablet and Fire TV devices. So not in that devices. And remember, because this is something that some users is doing, have this kind of problem, is remember to put only plain text in this field and non HTML, because otherwise the review will fail. So this is something that happens often. Then we have something special, is the product feature bullets, in which you can, in this text field, you can put the feature one by one of your application. So put the most important, I would say 3 on 5. It's allowed like up to 10 key feature. And this will appear also on the App Store website. And it's really important because from this point, from this text, the actual user can see what your app is doing. So it's really effective, this. And then for to increase the discoverability, to increase the CEO so the optimization of discoverability of your app inside the App Store, you have the keywords. So in this space, you can put using a comma as a separator or white space as a separator, all the keywords of your application that are representing your application. I don't know if you are like developing something about an application about like travel. Remember to put travel as a keyword. So like item, it's like airplane booking, something like that. So yeah, remember this.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and
then
I
just,
think
yeah.
that if I can add one
Yeah.
thing to this one, Joe, is that I think that's actually one of the main differences with when developers are publishing their descriptions on Google Play, for example. I know that Google doesn't really incentivize developers to put keywords in their description, and so the developers tend to kind of hack together these keywords inside the description. So for Amazon, there is a dedicated field to that, which I think it's very useful. That's where you need to put your keywords, is very clear. And I'm saying this because sometimes I actually saw them in the long description. And well, if you put them in the long description, they're not treated as keyword. They're just like treated as the normal description, and they don't really help the classification and ranking of your app. But putting them in keywords, it really helps for search. So yeah, just want to say that.
No, that's
Awesome.
useful. Actually, I saw in other store that many developers are hijacking even the app title to put some keywords in the title, in the app title. So sometimes, as a user, can be like a little bit terrible, but we have this space that you can use.
Yeah, and I think that also definitely helps with things like content recommendation, all sorts of things. So make sure you utilize that. We have one more question. So I saved my app to the Amazon App Store and received a message saying that there was an issue that the app can't open, freezes, or cannot start. So great question. I think this also, we will be covering this. So common things that we test for as Amazon when you submit your app to the App Store. If you haven't utilized our live app tester, I think that's a great way to check your app with real users, beta test it, and ensure that on multiple devices, your app doesn't crash, and as you said, freeze or not be able to start. So if you're not already using our live app tester, I definitely think that's a great way to ensure issues like this don't happen after, or don't get flagged after you submit your app.
Great. And by the way, if you want to support other Anisha, if you want to support other languages, you have like the possibility to do this. So so just click on add localize the description, and then you can select the language and put the information that you want in or decide the language, and that's it.
Yeah.
And after that, we have I think after that we can put like images and multimedia.
Yep. Yep, cool. So, images and multimedia. So, this is a really important section, I think, because this is kind of where we see a lot of our errors happening. So, in the images and multimedia section, it's where you can submit a collection of images that Amazon will use to represent your app for listing and promotional purposes. Each image asset has very unique specification and guidelines that are covered in the documentation. So, I'm going to quickly put the link to the documentation in the chat. And this is a really good guideline for all the assets that you may be submitting to the Amazon App Store and what to ensure to look out for when you're adding your app. So here, let me just pop that in the chat. Image guidelines. So this is really useful. So as you can see, there's guidelines for all images, both for Fire TV and Fire tablets, and as well as phone assets. For example, just a quick example for tablet, your icons are required to be 114 by 114 pixels for the small icon versus 512 by 512 for the large icon. But this is different to the app icon for Fire TV, where the app icon should be 1280 by 720 pixels. So just small discrepancies between, if you're using the same icon for your tablet app versus your Fire TV app can definitely cause submission failures. So make sure you run through all the guidelines within the link I've sent on the chat, because it has great features for, even things like videos. So for your tablet, you can include up to 5 videos related to your app. If you upload more than one of those videos, only the first video would be shown to customers on the App Store website, but all those videos will be available to customers when they store your listing on their device. So really useful information about what you can and can't do. We've got loads of design best practices, both around images and videos. So have a look, read through all that. If you think it's a useful session for us to kind of cover, let us know in the chat as well. So I'll hand back to Mario now to talk about the next section, which is content rating.
Yes, thank you, Anisha. So it looks like between payments and content rating, you're giving me all the hot potatoes, but I like that. So content rating is another super important part. I would say almost on par with the payment mechanism, because this really determines the audience of your application. So you need to use the content rating tab to define a content rating for your app, as it is obvious. All applications that are published to the Amazon App Store have to adhere to the content guidelines that are described in our Amazon App Store content policy. So if Amazon determines that, for example, an application contains or promotes content that is prohibited by our guidelines, Amazon will take action, and it will can potentially reject these applications. And it could even, if it is a repeated offense, for example, it could even proceed in taking action against your developer account and suspending for the distribution of your application. And potentially even, and of course, will notify that to the email address, the main email address associated with your developer account. So again, super important to understand what is the content rating, and also a question that we get a lot is, how does Amazon processes your content rating? So as you can see here, there are quite a few selections that you have to make on screen depending on what are the features and characteristics of your application. And based on your selections, Amazon will assign a summary maturity rating to your application, and then it will display the rating on the app detail page. And Amazon reserves the right to assign maturity ratings for your app at its discretion. So that's something that is important to take into account. We also take a look. We have a review process, as we said before, so we might take action and change the maturity rating if we don't think it's appropriate. Of course, if Amazon determines that an app has prohibited content, as I said before, it will reject the submission and it will take action. Keep in mind that a content rating, once you add it here, the only way for you to change a content rating is by submitting a new APK. So if you submit a new one, you will be given the option to update or change your content rating because the content of your app might have changed. That's important to take into account. Once it's submitted, it's gone for that version of the app. So the other question is, how Amazon uses the target audience question. So in addition to filling out the content rating question, you also need to provide additional details about your application target audience as well. So depending on the target audience that you select, and depending also on other things, like for example the countries that you target, you might be required to comply with what is called the COPPA policy, which is the Amazon Child Directed App Policy. So this is very, very important because it can really determine the distribution and availability of your application. There are mainly three audiences that you can target. There is number one, you can target apps designed for children. So that goes from 0 to 12 years old or to 13 to 15 in some marketplaces. So it's dependent also on the marketplace. If the app primary audience is children, you have to comply with the child-directed app policy that I just mentioned, and we can maybe post the link to the policy in the comments. Then there is a second target possible, which is app designed for mixed audiences, including children. So if the target audience of your app includes children, you must also comply with the COPPA policy. And finally, apps not designed for children, so only intended for ages 16 and above. In this case, if you select this audience specifically, the app must only meet Amazon broader content policy guidelines. So again, rule of thumb is if you include children in any iteration of your audience targeting, you have to comply with the COPPA policy. If not, only for adults, there is the general content policy guidelines. So before we move on, just some references about best practices. So make sure that you only select age groups for your app target audience if you have confirmed that your app is actually appropriate for those audiences. So don't select like mixed audiences because you think it is at a high level, you think it is also compliant for children, because we will check that. And you need to be compliant with the policy. So give a thorough analysis about your application and make sure that it does match the policy. And not only because you think at a high level that it does. The other thing that I wanted to mention is to talk about documentation for IP use. So this is mostly related to if you are inside your application, you showcase a specific well-recognized IP, and you need to demonstrate the ownership, or at least that you have the consent from the IP owner to use that IP. So keep in mind that Amazon will contact you during the app submission process if we realize that there is a potential IP infringement, and all of this we do to avoid that there is misuse of IP or any kind of IP infringement. And the last thing that I want to talk about is the privacy policy requirements, which is also very important. So this applies if your application collects personal information from end user. You need to provide a privacy policy to specify exactly what are you doing with the user data. Keep in mind that you need to be compliant with all the data acquisition policies where your application is being distributed to. Again, keep in mind that that's something that you have to take care of. and there is all the documentation necessary in our developer portal, so you can dive deep more on what are the requirements if you have to check out the privacy policy. So I don't know, guys, any more questions? Is there any question that we need to cover, or anything that I forgot?
Let's see
No,
in the
I
chat.
think we don't have any questions in the chat so far. Guys, please drop us your questions. We're streaming to YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn. Let us know what your favorite platform to watch us on is too. You know, we're interested to know where you prefer watching us from. What makes the most sense as well. So one more thing, and that is the last tab of our app submission. So the APK Files tab. So I'll pass it over to
Nice.
Gio again to
Yes.
talk about.
Great. So yeah, this is actually the step number 7. So we are still one to the end of the app submission. This is like almost the final one. So the one you have your APK, your awesome app, you need to deploy it. So you already put all the description, the title, the pricing, the content ready, the image and multimedia. You have your APK. You just need to take your APK and drop it down here in this space. Drop APK here. So like the UI is very explicative about this. So about these, I want to add that we are actually supporting app bundle and APK, so you can use both. And if you are using the Amazon Appstore SDK, you will need to have the public key inside your APK, inside your application. How can you get this API, this public key? There is a public key here, like on the right, top right. So you click on it, and then you have the loading dialog, and then from this screen, from this dialog, you can download the Appstore authentication key.pem. If you download this file and use it inside your app, you automatically can connect your app with the API, with the cloud API of the Amazon Appstore SDK. And if you are using if you have an Android native project, you have to put this file, this PEM file, inside the app source main asset, so into the asset folder of your main source folder. If you are, let's say that you are developing like a Unity game, you have to create an asset folder called streaming assets. So it's with this name, so streaming asset. So create in the asset folder of your Unity project this streaming asset folder and put drop the Appstore authentication key.pem file inside this, and you are good to go. You can check after you drop the API key inside this UI, you can select all the information about the language that you are supporting, and that's it. Actually, this is like the last step actually. And if you have to update the application, you just need to use the same interface to drop the APK file here. And just remember that if you are overwriting an APK because you want to update, you have the possibility to maintain the same device specification of the previous one. Otherwise, if you want to completely overwrite this device specification, you have to do another steps. And then maybe Anisha, you can talk about this, like how can you set up the device support for the APK?
Yeah.
Or
Sure.
before
we do that, we've got a great question. So, is there a way to simulate your app as it appears on different devices? So yes, the short answer is yes. So you can do this with our tablets. So you can set up virtual Amazon devices. This comes bundled with Android Studio as IDEs, so you can emulate 2 or different Fire tablet devices. If you go into Android Studios and you create a new device, then you can create a new virtual device in the Android Virtual Device Manager. I can post the link to how to configure this in the chat if that helps too. But yeah, super easy to do, available with our Fire tablets. Posting this now. Here you go, Ange. Cool. Oh, sorry. I mean, in the App Store listing, how do people see it? So is this a question about how users might see your app in the App Store listing? Maybe if you could clarify that just a little bit more, and then I can come back to that question. Awesome. So I think we are moving on to the next part, which is talking about updating an existing app. So if you're updating an existing app, you can do this by replacing the existing binary file or retaining the same device support or removing previous binary files and reselecting your device support details. So to adjust for device support for your app, once you upload the app's binary file, the number of supported devices will appear in the uploaded file section. So maybe Gio, if you can just show this section. And then what you can do is manage your devices in that section, in the device support overlay. There will be a section where you can choose which devices are supported and which are not. If you see a device marked as unsupported, you can find out why by moving your mouse over the icon next to the device name in that device support dialog box. So you can manually remove support for devices that have compatibility issues. And the devices are grouped into 3 categories. So we have Amazon Fire tablets, Amazon Fire TV devices, and non-Amazon Android devices. So you can click through all of these 3. And that should really help, with troubleshooting, device filtering, compatibility issues, etc. And a little tip from me is when a new Amazon device is released, the App Store will automatically detect if your app is compatible with the device. And if so, it will automatically make your app available on that device. You don't actually have to return to the developer console and manually select support for that newly released Amazon device. So that's really helpful when you're wondering if your app will be compatible with the latest tablet. Short answer is it will, if it is automatically compatible. So I'll hand it back to Gio to talk about adding multiple binaries for the same app.
Yes, thank you, Anisha. So actually, I mean, if you want to support multiple APK, Amazon App Store is supporting that one. And to add it, I mean, you have to know that we are supporting multiple APK for the same app only for devices that only for app that will be deployed on the Amazon device only. So if your app is supporting even by by different Amazon, even not only by Amazon device, you cannot use this feature. And we have also the possibility to use the multiple Android app bundle for this. And I mean, there is a procedure on the documentation if you want to check, because it's like, I mean, it's something that I cannot show you now, but it's something that you need to, it's something very easy to do it. I mean, actually, if you want to do. And another thing I can add, I don't know if you guys want to add something more about the multiple APKs or multiple app bundle.
No, that should be fine. I think we can definitely get into talking about some of the common errors, because I'm sure that's what everybody wants to hear, like common errors that you may encounter. And then we can talk finally about the app submission API. So I will briefly hand it over back to Mario to talk about some of the common errors you may face when submitting your app.
Yes, these are some of the things that are sometimes very trivial to fix, but sometimes they give you a headache. So let's start with my favorite, which is happens a lot, which is duplicate package name. So this usually happens when you are uploading a binary and you see one or of the 2 messages, depending if you're uploading an APK or an app bundle. But you basically get a message that says failed to upload APK, package name of the uploaded APK, and then the name of the package is already in use by an app owned by a different developer. Please contact us for more information. So number one, first thing is you have to check that you haven't submitted an app already with the same name. That usually happens when maybe you have different teams working on the same application and then a single submission process. So there might be already somewhere another version of the same app that has been already uploaded with that package name. Maybe you have a tablet version of the app and someone else has built the tablet, the Fire TV version of the app, and those are two separate APKs. You try to submit one, and it's already under a different SKU. So if that happens, the only thing that you can do is actually to change the package name of your application, or you need to go and see if there is already a submission that is happening in the background under your developer account, and then you will need to submit this application under that specific thread, overwriting the previous version. That way, it will still have the same package name, will just be a different version of the same. The alternative is that actually you're using a package name that has been already taken. In that sense, the only way that you can check is to see if there is already an app on the App Store with that name, and the only thing that you can do at that point is to change your package name. Usually that will happen when it's the first submission of your app and you haven't submitted it before. So luckily you'll still be able to go and update your package name. So, however, if you have problems with this, let's say that maybe you don't, it's still within your developer account, but you don't have access to that account anymore, or there is some issues in that sense, you can use your Amazon developer account and contact us using the question mark in the app in the right-hand corner of the developer portal. So that's for duplicate package name. The other one, which is fairly common in particular, as developers support new versions of FireOS, for example, is a warning that you get that says reduce device support. So usually you get a message that says something like device support has been reduced from the previous version. Some existing customer will not be able to upgrade. To resolve manifest conflict, Amazon recommends editing the manifest to retain your current device support. So that is, of course, the easy solve. It might be that you might have updated your manifest, and because you have selected specific, for example, screen density or screen sizes, or maybe you added a specific permission requirement, your application is now supporting less devices than the previous version. The solve there is just to change and update your manifest. Usually when you get this warning is because you have taken a proactive action and you have actually changed something in your application. So you might need to go back and change some of these features to still ensure that you are targeting the largest amount of devices possible, which should always be your end goal. There might be some specific situations in which you're okay with this warning because you actually want to reduce the number of devices to a specific group, because maybe you have another APK that supports better other devices. So this is flagged anyway in case you have a previous version and then the number of devices is shrinking. So make sure that that is taken well care of. Another one to take care about is target device not available. So when uploading a new binary file, you see a message that says that a particular device is not supported. The message could be something like your app bundle manifest require capabilities not present on this device, and it could be related, for example, usually is related to the Android Min SDK version, and a specific device requires a specific Min SDK. Or your APK manifest requires capabilities not present on this device. For example, again, it could be the Android Min SDK version. So you just need to hover the message and it will give you more details about what feature is what target device is not available because of what feature. So you can just go back to your application and update and change the functionality. You can also adjust the target device. Like it might be that you want to exclude specific devices because maybe of a new version of your app and you don't want to support a specific screen resolution or specific device itself because maybe it has a critical incompatibility with the specific device, so you can always filter those out. And then maybe the last but not least is targeted by another binary in the current version. So it might be that you already have submitted a version, and that specific device is already targeted by another binary already. So keep in mind that multiple binaries cannot support the same device. You need to have, if you want to go for the alley of having multiple binaries, there should be a clear cut between which devices support which. So I will not go into too much details on this one. There are quite a few steps that you can take to do this. There is a full documentation on it on our developer portal that walks you through, if you're in this situation, how to navigate the different splitting of the APK, because there could be a different iterations. And I think that's actually a good subject that you might take an entire session in the future. If you're interested, we can do that. But my suggestion is just to go and check out our developer portal. There is quite a lot of information on it. So I think that one of the next topic is, which is also important, is stage rollout, right, Anisha?
Yeah, definitely. So I'll let Gio take this, and then we can
I can talk about
no
this.
more questions.
Thank you, Anisha. I hope my camera now is working, because I have some issue with that, but no problem. So about the stage rollout, and so we know that it's a really important feature as a developer, no? Because let's say that you develop, you want to add a feature to your app, but it's a really delicate feature, and you want to release to a small amount of users, let's say like 1% or 5% of the users, so you can check for bugs, but you can check even for feedbacks about the feature, and you can decide to roll back. So we are actually supporting this. This is called a stage rollout. So as an app store, we are supporting this. But there are some particular things about this at this support. So you can, we are supporting this stage rollout only if you are using Android APKs. So we are not supporting like stage rollout for web application, for instance. And your app needs to have a minimum of unique downloads of 10,000. So if your app has, the previous version of your app has less unique downloads for your application, you are not able to use such stage rollout. But it's not it's not a small number. So a lot of developers can use it actually. And you cannot change the content rating for the app. And even updates about the prices and in-app purchase are not allowed in this case. So a part of this limitation, the stage rollout is fully supported, and you have to actually to use it to deploy feature to your user and to test it. So that's a good one. I don't know if there are questions about the rollout from the audience.
No,
I don't see one.
But there's one last thing I do want to talk about. So please drop your questions in the chat if you have any more. But as developers, we love automating things. I'm sure if things could be automated, we're first to jump on that bandwagon. Yes. And luckily for you guys, the app submission API is also a RESTful API, so you can actually automatically, program so that you can update your existing apps on the Amazon Appstore to use this RESTful API to automate that submission of your new apps, streamline the frequency of performed operations such as uploading image assets or updating APK versions. And the API syntax and workflow is very similar to the Google Play Store API. So it's very similar for you to adapt to your current workflows for the Amazon App Store. So you just need to submit your first version of your app to the developer console, and then you'll be able to use the app submission API. And if you think this is useful, you want us to dive deeper into this, definitely let us know. We can do a dedicated session. We can figure out what works best. We have one more question before we jump
sorry,
in.
Anisha. We also have a Python sample about using the app submission API that is in the documentation, so you can check even that one if you are using Python. But you can use for that.
There we go. That's in the chat. One question we've got here. So, is there a way to refund a user who bought an app?
Is there a way to refund the user who bought an app? That's a great question. I don't think there is a way directly from our financial system, but that's actually a great feature. So again, we can double check on that one and go back to our team. But I don't think there is a straight away process to refund an application.
Yep, definitely. But we have a portal on the developer portal. There are you can also ask your questions there. If you think it's a problem with your app, you could submit a ticket, and someone from our team will definitely have a look at that if it's particular to your application. Awesome. So if we have no more
There's
questions,
another question. There is another question here, which is: is it possible to change from paid to free after an update? Yes, you can. What you cannot do is the other way around. You cannot change from free to paid if you set it up to free in the first place. So it's a what in Amazon we call a one-way door decision. You can only you can only go from paid to free, but you cannot go from free to paid. And yes, you will have to do that through a. I think actually you can. I don't think you have to submit a new version of the app. You can just change from paid to free without updating it, and then you just. I think you should be able to do that because it's just changing the payment system. You don't need to do another submission. But yeah. And then I think there was another question before from An Chang. There was is there a way to see how my Appstore listing looks like on the different platforms? So I assume like you mean, for example, if you have different tablets with different sizes or Fire TV and a Fire tablet. Well, there is no way through the emulator, unfortunately. Like the only way to actually see the full listing is through the device itself. So there is no way to test that. I think again, following the advice that Gio was giving about the assets and Anisha was giving about the images, like you should provide as many screenshots, for example, as possible to cover the biggest amount of devices possible. So that if you're on a Fire TV screen, it will not show like the wrong screenshots, or maybe that if you're in a tablet, it will not only show phone related images. So make sure that you upload the largest and biggest coverage possible of images, and the same is with description, right? Like you want to make sure that you have a short enough description, the short description, and long description with all the content, and then it will be up to the Amazon UI to display the listing correctly. So there is not a wild difference, I would say, between Amazon devices, in particular between Amazon Fire tablets. Maybe the 10-inch device is a little bit bigger, so screenshots are shown on a bigger real estate. But I think that by following the best practices that we talked about today, you should be able to get a good coverage. I don't know if you guys have anything to add on this.
No, that's great advice. I'm cautious. Yeah, we're reaching the end of our session. So before we close off for the day, I just wanted to say next week we will again be having a break. It's the Queen's Jubilee weekend. So I'm sure lots of people will be making use of the long holiday. So we don't want to keep you here next week to watch us go celebrate. I think it's a federal holiday in the United States as well on Monday, so I'm sure people will be making use of that long weekend. So we will be back the week after, and we have a great show planned for you. So tune in then, 6 p.m. Tuesday, GMT, 10 a.m. PST. We will see you there.
Awesome.
Nice.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks
for tuning in.
You.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. See you.
Bye.